round three. We're going to have each candidate spend 3 minutes talking about really, truly whatever they want. And it's going to be fascinating. So, oh, do we want a break? No, we don't. We don't want a break. No breaks. Chaz?
Starting with one again? Okay. Well, I'm going to, Delridge is a favorite topic of mine, so I'm going to take number 2, create and promote a Delridge neighborhood community identity. And I'm going to go back. Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm going to reset. Anything. It doesn't have to be.
No, but I want to do that.
Oh!
This is not a I'm forced to. This is I want to. Because I've got some great ideas, and I think you all are, as many of you recall, I was involved in bridging the two sides with the walking trails maps eons ago, and it always struck me that Delridge is like denying its own self. What is Delridge? It means hills and valleys. Why are we not concentrating our neighborhood identity on the fact that Delridge is the part of West Seattle which actually has the hills and valleys? The west side, 35th, the Southwest District, yeah, it's all a plateau. They've all got great views, but they don't have any valleys, really. They've got ravines. It's a completely different thing. So what I'd like to do is I'd like the Delridge identity to be associated with dells and ridges. Each of the dells has, as has been pointed out, a locavore environment. We've got a really green part of the city right here. We've got the biggest part of the green belt. We've got Camp Long. We've got the river. Okay, you could hardly have any more identity components than those. But we've got more. We've got South College. We've got the entire industrial Duwamish. Okay, the west side has the beach, but we've got the industrial component here. We've got the port, its own issues, admittedly. We've got Nucor, which is a very green company, by the way. And we've got Harbor Island, in addition to the things that the port does, there's other activities. So what I'd like to see is I'd like to see kind of a grand visioning where Delridge, it's valleys and hills, there's places to live, there's places to put office buildings, there's places to work. It's all tied together with a Delridge Way that is a boulevard. We've got cross currents going back and forth with Brandon. We've got little nodes here and there, including the Cambridge end and the north end. And I think you could tie, if you wanted to, you could actually look at Delridge as almost, a micro community unto itself, not necessarily worrying about the west side of 35th, and just focus on those kinds of things that are of value here. We have affordable housing, we have development opportunities, we have businesses that could be moving in. All of these things are incredible. We have arguably the best golf course in the entire city, sitting right there at the north end of Camp Long. Those are assets beyond compare, and they should be part of the Delridge conversation. We should be showing people what we really have here. And we have people, as has been pointed out already, who live basically from the river all the way over to 35th, who tend to their own yards. They grow things, they fix things, they build things. There are metal artists that live in Delridge who show at the Alki Art Fair. So I would like to see a more robust self-identity process going on in Delridge, because we all have some amazing assets here that have been underplayed, I think, seriously. And to me, the dells and ridges, think of all of the places that advertise their ski lifts or what have you. Everybody's showing mountains and things like that. Why aren't we doing that with Delridge? We have an awesome view here.
Thank you, Chaz. Ta-da! That's a terrible lie. We're not going to vote anymore. This is just, I know. It was news to me too. So we're just going to enjoy and appreciate and love everything they say. All right, Carl.
It's funny. This is my first major campaign. I've never worked in politics, and I consider myself kind of an outsider, and yet, by the rankings tonight, I'm about a few clicks shy of kissing a baby up here. So evidently, I need to work on my message management. Just to wrap up, there's lots of things I'd like to talk about. I'll talk about one small thing and one big. One idea I didn't touch on earlier was when we talk about spurring business development along Delridge. I've talked to so many people who work in bars or restaurants in other parts of the city, people who used to open businesses and run businesses, and they all are eyeing this corridor. They're all looking at it saying, gosh, I have a great idea. There's a place I'd like to open. There's something I'd like to do there. And I've heard several of them say, but it's not ready. Maybe there's not enough foot traffic for me to really be successful if I start my business there. And this is an ugly feedback loop because it's not ready because somebody hasn't done it, because somebody hasn't taken that plunge. And so we have to find a way as a community to help these bystanders, the people who are looking on the outside, who are just itching to open something, to help get jobs and money into this community, find a way to give them a push. And I really believe in prioritizing financially and through just sort of management help. People who live along and right next to this corridor, people who live here, are invested in it, and are going to be here in the long haul. Let's pull their ideas in and find a way to get them started so that we can turn that around. The feedback loop stops. More broadly, and as one of the reasons I decided to jump into this campaign for the first time, is I feel like we have a window in Seattle. It's a small window, but it's a window where we have a chance now to change the way this city develops for decades. We can transform the direction that we're going. If we're not careful, in 10 to 20 years, actually if we are careful, we have an opportunity to be a model city, a fair, affordable, connected city with all kinds of public transit options, all sorts of ways to move around, to live, to work, to get everywhere and do everything that we love here. Or if we're not careful, we'll be a cautionary tale. We'll be a city that has outgrown itself, that can't support people on the roads, we don't have the buses to move people, and we might not have the light rail here in West Seattle. If that's true in 20 years, I'm going to be horrified. So that, to me, that's exciting. When you have that sliver, you have a chance to get in there, you have a chance to think big, think boldly, and to make a huge difference. And if you killed yourself and throw yourself against the wall for 4 years and give all you have into that vision, I think that's great, and that's my goal.
Thank you, Carl. Jody?
Thank you, man.
You're awesome.
So this is a great time for folks from West Seattle. I truly believe that. One of the things I've been touting during this campaign is how underrepresented as a district we are in city government. It feels like we haven't really been privy to the backroom deals and the decision-making that's taking place in terms of our community. So I think as a West Seattle resident, I've lived here since 1977. As a West Seattle resident, I think this is a really exciting time for all of us. You have a bunch of folks up here who really genuinely care about the community. Like I said, I've had a chance to get to know some of these folks, not as well as maybe I'd like to, but we've spent a lot of time together on the trail, and I really think that no matter which way you vote, we're all well suited to have somebody that really represents our needs going into the next 4 years. We have some big decisions to make, though. We have some public transportation issues. We have some building issues. We have housing issues, certainly. Delridge. We talked about economic development here. I think it's about time. It's going to come. I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the direction that takes is a direction that we want, a direction that we're proud of, a direction that we'd be happy with going into the future. And so I would just encourage you all to do as much research as you can on all of these candidates up here, all of us. We all care a great deal about this community, but we all have very different visions about how we would execute that care should we be elected. I will tell you that a couple of my prime issues that I've been campaigning on, we talked about schools, we talked about our streets, we talked about our future. As a lifelong resident of this community, this place means an awful lot to me. I've been talking to a lot of folks. Generally, one of the very first questions people ask me is, why have you decided to run? It's easy to give the politicized answer. I've been talking about public transportation and housing and those things. But at the end of the day, a friend of mine's mother asked me last night, why are you running? And for some reason, for the first time, the easiest answer came to my head. It's time for one of us to stand up. It's time for one of us to make sure that the decisions that are made on our behalf about our community are decisions that genuinely benefit us as a community. Whether it be SDOT looking to remove lanes from 35th Avenue or looking to remove parking from Admiral Way, making changes to our roads, taking away bus service. It's time that someone from our district stood up in those meetings and represented our interests. Should I be elected, I will be proud and pleased to do that for this community. Thank you all very much for coming this evening.
Thank you, Jody. Lisa?
Yeah. So I think the is faced with, and not just your city, but also West Seattle and Delridge, is the issue of affordability. I decided to run because I really don't want this to be a city that is only for the very, very wealthy. I'm outdoor knocking several times a week, and I hear repeatedly from people, from all different kinds of people, from elderly homeowners to people who have to travel for their work, to renters, that they're moving out of West Seattle because of either the unaffordable nature of housing or because of the congestion problems. I've worked in city government for a while now, and I can tell you that this is different. What I'm hearing every day from folks is different than what I hear in the past, hearing from concerned constituents about the representation on their behalf. This is different, and this is a special moment, like Carl said. We have an opportunity to really change the course of our city, and in order to do so, I think it's really critical that we begin to change our expectations for the development community. Just like we've done recently for the minimum wage. We've changed what it means to be a good employer in this city by increasing the minimum wage, and that reflects our values as a city, as residents of this city. We need to do the same thing with the development community to make sure that they are investing both in the infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, that is needed to support the development. We need to re-examine our parking policies, these policies that say that you don't have to provide any parking in frequent transit areas. Really, they need to be examined for their real world impacts. They were passed in 2010. It's a good idea but it can't just be based on whether or not there's frequent transit in the area, because that doesn't mean necessarily that people don't have cars. So we really need to look at these real world impacts, and we also need to make sure that the buildings that are being built in the city actually include truly affordable housing. And I'm not talking about market rate housing that's being called affordable housing. I'm talking about affordable housing that serves the spectrum of workers in the city. It's patently unfair for our workforce to not be able to live in this city. They keep the city running, and long commutes don't help anybody. And they don't help the environment because they just add more emissions in the air. So this is just a really important time right now for us together as a city to come together and talk about what kind of city we want to be and how we can do that.
Thank you, Lisa. I feel like I should. All right. I really like that. Can we just make the noise happen? Arturo, you ready?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm in the same shoes of Carl here. I need to work on my message probably a little bit. One of the things that I, put myself out at risk of being here in front of you, speaking with an accent and everything. You might think, what does this guy think? Who is he going to think he's going to get elected? But I think one of the reasons that all of us are here is because we, I have a background in public administration, and I think some of them do too. At least you do. So we know the government can make a difference in people's lives. And I think that's the reason we are interested in those positions. How would it be local, would it be state, would it be federal? It can make a difference. The decisions that are made there in City Hall is going to impact many of us. So I think that is one of the reasons that we do have a truly opportunity. And I think, as Jordan was saying, we usually like to see us minority individuals, whether American, Latino, Asian. We love it when the elections go by district because we have more of a chance to get elected than if we go in large elections. Look at what is happening in Yakima. I think the city actually went to court because they do not want to go to elections by districts. So it's a real opportunity that we have here. Some of my priorities had always been in my life, I think, children and the elderly. I will continue those kinds of priorities to make sure that those services that are there serving those populations will continue, will be there. So I think we do have a great opportunity here, and I think we intend to take advantage of that and we ask for the vote. Thank you for coming and being here tonight.
Thanks, Arturo. Shannon?
Thank you, and Arturo, I liked your messaging because I, too, one of the reasons I am running is because I very much believe in government's ability to partner with our residents, with our nonprofits, with our businesses to really make positive impact on people's lives. So I have lived in this community in this district for almost 17 years. I'm raising my 3 kids here. I think District 1 from South Park through West Seattle up the Delridge corridor is really amazing. And the doorbelling and the community meetings and the forums are my favorite parts of this experience because we hear so much more. I learn something every single time we're out, and listening is one of the biggest parts of this job. We have a lot of big things going on. We need to address opportunity and access and affordability and transit and transportation issues and development. And those are all big, big policy things that I know we're all eager to work on and to make a big difference for District 1 and for Delridge. But I think one of the key things that I bring to this race is that my current role as Chief of Staff to Joe McDermott at the King County Council is one that is involved in a lot of constituent relations. We are already a districted local government, so Joe represents District 8. So I deal with, on a very regular basis, phone calls from constituents, sometimes from within the city of Seattle because they're not quite sure who to call because they don't have one person accountable to their neighborhood like this new system will bring to us. But, for example, we'll get a call from someone on Vashon who's looking for an easement and they don't think the information that they're getting from the Department of Planning is appropriate. And so how can we help them? And our job is to help those residents navigate the system. Constituent services is a big, big part of this work, and it affects all of those big issues as well. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I love this community, and I would very much appreciate your vote. It would be a privilege to be your Seattle Council member, and I thank you all very, very much for taking your time to be here tonight. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. Philip?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Obviously, I hope you all go tell the people that weren't here about what you saw and tell them to participate and take better time. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about the fact that when the primary vote comes around, there's going to be less than 40% of the people in District 1 voting. And that shouldn't happen. We should have more people, but that's unfortunately a discussion for another day. The fact is, I'm here because I love Seattle. 18 years ago, I visited a friend here, fell in love with it, and moved here. My parents moved here, my grandmother moved here, met my wife here, raising my son here, and I see so much potential in this city that's unrealized. I mean, we already have an amazing city, but we have problems, and we have problems that have existed now for a lot of years. And some of the problems are getting worse: affordable housing, and homelessness, and parking, and traffic. And, you know, we've got a police department under a consent decree from the Department of Justice, and our schools are underfunded. And what's interesting is, when I first moved here, Seattle felt to me like a giant town. You know, I was coming here from Manhattan, I've lived in DC, I've worked a lot in Chicago and San Francisco and LA, and those are urban environments. And when I came here in 1998, Seattle just felt like a wonderful town, even though it was big and it had a lot of the things you get in an urban center. What we're going through now, a lot of our growing pains with some of the property crimes and the traffic issues and homelessness I was talking about, is because we're really sort of in an urban adolescence right now. Seattle is growing, and we're at a point where we can make some incredible changes and do some things to really fix this town and set it up to be one of the greatest cities in America going forward. You know, we always get voted being the greenest and the most literate and the fittest, and those things are wonderful, but we can do much more. When you look at a lot of the problems that we have, and then you look at places like San Francisco and New York and Boston and Chicago, they're much worse, and they've reached a point where it's hard for them to deal with it. But we can deal with all of those things here now. And I know Jody has brought up the fact that, you know, you look at the Alaska Junction, and the fact is the problems there could be the problems in Delridge 10 years down the road. So why don't we fix them now? Fix them now so Delridge doesn't go through these issues later. And the perfect opportunity is the fact that we've got districted elections for the first time in 100 years. It's time to put someone who has not been part of the problem into office, someone who brings new skills and new experiences to this game and changes it for everybody and just makes it better. That's why I'm here, that's why I want your vote, and that's why I hope you go and tell people what you've seen and heard tonight, because we have an opportunity to make an incredible positive change for this city and make the future something that's going to be amazing. And that's what I really want to see happen here. Thank you.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was an outstanding forum. Let's give them a round of applause.